Welcome to Skinner and Chalmers Weekly Roast. Today, community gathering at Gigglewood Resort, a delicious amusement park experience.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's regular edition of Skinner and Chalmers Weekly Roast. It's the 13th of May, and this week we have a very special treat for you all. We will talk about our community meeting at the amazing amusement park Gigglewood Resort in Memmofield. Thanks, in any case, to one of our listeners, Deputies Kids for Life, for the suggestion. We have taken your idea as an opportunity to organize a community trip to the theme park. People on the fan server, as well as in the YouTube comments, could sign up accordingly.
Oh, yes, we had such an incredible time there with everyone, and I know you'll love hearing about it as much as we do.
Absolutely, Seymour. It had been so wonderful to be able to spend the day there with some of our listeners. Thank you to everyone who signed up and took part. It was fantastic.
Who are you telling? I don't even know where to start. I was just amazed to talk to listeners from the community, one better than the other.
Well, we could start with Vincent Van Goat. They initially claimed that they was an absolute ace at bumper cars. And what can I say? Absolutely right. When we all went for a spin on Bumping Memo Machine, Vincent simply had the most bumps ever.
But so much more. Vincent kept crashing into me. Once they rammed into me so hard that I forgot which way I had turned the steering wheel, and then I somehow overturned it and drove backwards the whole time and didn't even know how to steer the thing anymore.
Yes. I remember about halfway through the journey you got stuck with Yugi, Sonic, and one of our listeners, Lucy. You were all stuck there and a member of staff, I think her name was Luna, had to come to you to get you out of it somehow.
Oh, yes, if the employee hadn't come, the four of us could probably have had a coffee party there for the rest of the journey while you all drove around us. I'm sure our dear Loomis of Failing would have left his bumper car out of indulgence in that case and hopped into the round, maybe into Sonic's car, and chatted with us together.
That would have been a sight to behold. Fortunately, Vincent had seized the moment of favor and had taken a photo of that funny bumper crash. They sent it to me by email afterwards, and I will definitely put it in our photo album. The view of you, Sonic, Yugi, Lucy, and Vincent. Simply marvelous. You could see from your faces. Yes, great. That's going well. What are we going to do now? What an event.
Indeed. But luckily, Vincent had given everyone an ice cream as an apology. Thanks again for that, my dear.
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you. It was really nice because we all got chatting afterwards, and the people from the community were able to get to know each other. I mean, where better to start a conversation than over a scoop of stracciatella, chocolate, and strawberry?
Couldn't agree more while we're on the subject. Let's name the other people from the community we have met that day, before we go into any more detail. Well, we've already mentioned Loomis of Failing and Lucy. In any case, Julia, Brisbane Pie, 1862, and Little Me was also there, and later that day ArticTiger was coming along too. Arctic had been working on gimmicks for a stream before, so he couldn't make it earlier. Oh yes, and of course, we also invited Deputies Kids for Life. We were so grateful for the idea that the trip to Gigglewood Resort was of course on us.
Oh, yeah. Haha, totally. Now you've mentioned our dear Loomis of Failing, I remembered Z really wanted to go to the House of Horrors. I'm looking forward to talking about that frightful Friar Mansion later.
Oh yes, there's quite a bit to tell, especially about me and the little inconvenience due to my fear of spooky skeletons.
Oh, it's all good, Skinner. You don't need to feel bad about it. All our community members understood that it could be unpleasant for you. And fortunately, Loomis was there to support you until the end, encouraging you.
Oh yes, thank you all, and of course, thank you, Loomis of Failing. That was very kind of you. But yes, before we get into that, and since we were just talking about delicious ice cream, we also stopped by a special candy stand later in the day. There was something there that I'd never seen before, but it sounds incredibly tasty.
Ah, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Chocolate balls filled with cotton candy. One of our viewers, Julia, suggested we go there together and indulge in this delight. And what can I say? Thanks for your suggestion, Julia. It was absolutely delicious.
Absolutely. Julia mentioned that they used to be available for purchase outside of Memafield, but unfortunately the manufacturer discontinued the product. Luckily, there was this stand in Gigglewood Resort that still offers the homemade chocolate balls. You should have seen Julia's face when she could finally took a bite again. Pure joy.
Oh, yes, but the others in our little group as well. Brisbane and Vincent even discussed afterward how the small stand makes the tasty balls.
Oh yes, I also remember Lucy mentioned that the cotton candy inside should basically melt when the hot chocolate drips on it.
Exactly, Loomis. Then tried to explain how it relates to the molecular structure. Why the cotton candy sort of clumps together when that happens.
Exactly. We discussed for a while in the group how that's possible. Afterwards, Little My only said to Loomis that the most important thing was the flavor of the candy floss balls, no matter how the molecular structures behave.
Oh, yes, but we didn't really let go of the production process in our small group.
Exactly. In the end, we asked the stand owner from the letter FF is for fabulous how it's done, but he didn't want to reveal his little secret.
Unfortunately not. But, well, we'll get to the bottom of the mystery. But for now, let's go back to the frightful friar mansion we have mentioned before. That was a scary house shaped in the form of a friar and, oh boy.
I had seen your face fall apart the moment Loomis mentioned that Z would like to go there.
You could literally see the fear of spooky skeletons on your face.
Hey, I've got a bit better in that respect. But yes, I had to swallow first because I didn't want to disappoint Z. Yes. Loomis knew about my fear and had told me individually. While you all went on to the next attraction as a group, that Z would completely understand if I wanted to stay out, and that Z wouldn't take offense at all. But still, it was so nice to meet Loomis and all our community members, I wanted them to have a nice memory of the day.
Don't worry, Skinner. Even without the frightful friar mansion, we would have had it the same way. But in the end, you even got over yourself and weren't even that scared. We were all really proud of you.
Oh, yes. That was a splendid moment when you all rallied behind me. I had tears in my eyes. And it wasn't actually as bad as I thought. If only I had known beforehand that my pet skeleton old Bartholomew was on shift at the haunted house that week, I would have felt less apprehensive right from the start.
Ah, yes, you're right. You're right. Oh, Bartholomew does part-time shifts at Gigglewood Resort. Completely slipped my mind. But yes, before we delve into the events, perhaps we should first explain what the theme park itself is all about, eh? We're already diving headfirst into the fond memories and haven't even touched on what the theme park has to offer. The amusement park is truly a delightful experience for everyone who goes there. There were so many unique attractions to enjoy, from the slow-moving gondola del meme that allowed us to spot famous internet memes hidden among the scenery, to the zesty Zephyr, a swashbuckling pirate ship ride full of excitement and zest.
Oh yes, Chalmers. I particularly enjoyed seeing the distracted boyfriend Meme at Gondola del Meme while we were drifting along. It was quite the sight to behold. And of course, there was the runaway Meme Express that had us laughing all the way through as we raced past those hilarious surprises.
Indeed, the lateral forces on Flatspin Flurry were quite something too. I don't think my stomach has ever been flipped that many times in such a short amount of time. And who could forget the Muffin Mayhem roller coaster? That thrilling ride had us dodging flying muffins and icing like true daredevils.
Oh, and let's not forget about the airy whizzing spinning top. I tell you, dear listeners, it was quite the sight to see Chalmers spinning around in that massive 100 meters high carousel while enjoying the beautiful view of Memafield from up above. Well, I must say, Chalmers, you looked absolutely adorable up there on that spinning top.
Oh dear, thanks. But it was indeed quite the spectacle. And speaking of attractions in the amusement park, Loomis, deputies, and Brisbane seemed to really enjoy our ride in Runaway Me Express there. Loomis kept going on about how much Z loved lateral coasters. I think Z might have a thing for spinning rides in general. And Lucy was quite taken with the Venice-themed part of the park, wasn't she? She kept asking if we all wanted to go on that boat ride at Gondola del Meme together. I think she might have had something else in mind besides just enjoying the meme-tastic scenery.
Oh, you never know with Lucy. This Venice section in the park is particularly renowned for romantic moments. Many couples opt for the Gondola del Meme to get closer, to kiss, and do all the lovey-dovey stuff. Lucy must have known that you and me would seize the opportunity to steal a little smooch amidst that beautiful scenery. As we drifted along in that boat, the others were admiring the landscape and hidden memes. But between you and me, I reckon they all were secretly whispering among themselves about if and when we both would share a kiss on the ride. Oh, those Philistines. But it was such a lovely atmosphere. We didn't feel pressured at all, quite the opposite. We connected so well with all of you right from the start, it felt like we'd known each other for ages. Brisbane, Vincent, and Loomis definitely gave Lucy a pat on the back afterward for the idea of the little boat ride. Little Mai was totally excited afterwards. She was so happy to see two people loving each other so much. It was really great that you Chalmers and I could just be ourselves without pretending anything. We were just allowed to be who we are. Thank you for that.
Indeed. It was just wonderful in general, and also how well you all got along and helped each other out during the trip. Do you remember when it was around 1 o'clock just before we were going to eat at the restaurant, the Flames of Passion, and we all wanted to use the toilets beforehand, wash our hands and such? You were all helping each other out. One was watching the bags while the others went to the restroom. Sunscreen was being shared when it got a bit too sunny. Simply marvelous. It was a pleasant surprise how well that went from the start.
Yes, it was lovely having all of our listeners there with us. And who could forget about that delicious food at the Flames of Passion? Their vegan popcorn chicken was absolutely to die for. We even saw Shadow and Yugi from next door enjoying some of their famous fried treats.
Right, I saw those two as well. Master Chief was, I think, on one of the roller coasters at some point. I definitely had a quick chat with Sonic while you were all in the restroom at that time. He mentioned he was there with Shadow, Yugi, and Master Chief. Funny how we ended up taking a trip to Gigglewood Resort on the same day.
It's a small world sometimes. And you're getting along well with Sonic again? I remember Alligator snapping caused him quite a bit of trouble before. Sonic wasn't too thrilled that snapping trampled his hedge.
Yeah, well, that's all water under the bridge now, thankfully. I invited Sonic for a round of bowling at Meme, oh Rama, and I footed the bill for the game and food. You probably remember the bowling center we all went to after the Forbidden Book incident. But yes, so all is well again.
Good to hear. We could also ask old Bartholomew if he happens to be breeding any saplings for Sonic's hedge. He's quite knowledgeable about gardening. But yes, it really was a wonderful day all around. And I must say, Chalmers, I think I might have seen you stealing glances at Princess Popcorn III while we were waiting in line for the candy corn copter. You've always had a thing for giant popcorn mascots, haven't you?
She is quite lovely, isn't she? But no, Seymour. Nothing to see there.
All right, so I don't need to worry about that, love.
No, goodness, absolutely not.
Don't worry, I'm just teasing you a bit. I know we're both faithful to each other in that regard, and if ever there's any attraction to someone else, we'll openly discuss it and know that our safe haven is with each other.
Oh yes, I'm glad we both excel in good communication. Nevertheless, I wouldn't mind if you stashed a popcorn mascot costume at our place.
Oh, what do you have in mind for that? But yeah, the Popcornopolis Popper was really something and worth the 45 minutes queue line. The free fall tower is just like freshly popped popcorn. It shoots up so quickly and comes down just as fast, only to repeat the whole thing again.
Indeed. Now let's not forget about the haunted house, the frightful Friar Mansion. That place gave me the creeps just looking at it. I remember you staying well away from that one at first, but eventually you had overcome your fear and walked with us into it. You still fear spooky skeletons too much, don't you? But hey, we had a great time.
It wasn't so bad in the haunted house in the end. And the final photo, which we all took together, was simply wonderful. You have to stick it in our photo album, too. Luckily, we had dinner beforehand, which gave me the strength I needed for the haunted house. And, of course, your support. We had a really tasty meal in the restaurant, which definitely gave us the strength we needed for the day in general.
Ah, the food at the Flames of Passion truly was an experience to remember. Our listeners had such diverse tastes. Vincent opted for a vegetarian dumpling. Loomis absolutely wanted a vegetarian spaghetti carbonara. Lucy went for the vegan sushi. Little me bought a spinach pizza. Julia ordered the vegetarian chicken fricassee, and Brisbane couldn't resist the steamed maraschino cherries. In fact, Brisbane had ordered 2 portions, claiming he was eating for ArticTiger too, since he hadn't joined us yet. Can you imagine, Seymour, having a cherry on top of everything?
Yes, indeed. Those maraschino cherries looked almost too good to eat, didn't they? And Brisbane Pie was kind enough to share some of those juicy treats with the rest of us. I must admit, I did enjoy them more than I thought I would.
Absolutely. It was quite a feast, and the flavors were simply delightful. And Little Maid gave us all a round of crepes after the main course. She really wanted to share this delicious delicacy with us all.
Thanks again, Little Me. It was delicious, and I think everyone felt the same.
Speaking of which, after indulging ourselves with that scrumptious meal, we decided to take it easy and chose a calmer attraction in the park before hitting the roller coasters.
That's right. We headed over to the Tofu Temple of Doom, where we navigated temple traps and puzzles to win the tastiest tofu prize. Not to mention, there was even a plushy tofu toy as a bonus. Tofu.
Yes, and everyone was determined to conquer the challenges and claim their prizes. Lucy managed to keep her cool throughout the entire ordeal, despite being rather competitive. Vincent, on the other hand, was laughing so hard during the maze part, while they and Loomis completely lost track. The two had even piggybacked to look over the tofu-shaped hedges. Totally unfair. That's the only reason why the two of them ended up with the great tofu cuddly toy. Tofu?
Vincent and Loomis deserved it. We even signed the tofu plush toy for both of them, respectively, Zem, in the end. It will certainly have a great place in their kitchens. And poor Brisbane. He struggled a bit with those maraschino cherry-stained hands trying to solve the tofu-themed tofu puzzles. But he never complained once and was always ready to lend a helping hand to his fellow community members. Although some of us, and I'm totally not referring to Julia, didn't need any help. She knew so much about tofu, she did a speed run.
Probably Brisbane just helped the others to smear the cherry stains on their hands. Just kidding, we all had a good laugh. And while we were waiting in line for the Tofu Temple of Doom, we couldn't help but notice how much fun everyone was having together. It truly felt like we had formed our own little community within the larger group.
Indeed, it was a wonderful feeling. And after conquering the Tofu Temple of Doom, we were all pumped up and ready for the roller coasters.
That's when things got a little wild. It was wedding season for park visitors, with roller coaster queues lasting up to 1.5 hours at times. None of us wanted to waste our time waiting in line, so we decided to do something else instead. Luckily, Vincent and Brisbane happened to notice that the queue for the Gummy Bear Blaster was practically non-existent. So off we went. There, we engaged in a sticky battle arena by dueling each other with gummies and syrup. Thankfully, all the sweet treats were packaged in containers afterward, so no food was wasted. But it was a bit sticky.
Oh, what a mess that was. Gummy bears flying left, right, and center. And let's not forget about the squirted syrup. It was everywhere. But we all had a blast, and the best part was that we were able to package up the remains for future use. A highly innovative machine was used to remove the syrup from the gummy bears and disinfect them, so everything was safe to eat.
Remember when I said, wait a second, gummy bears? Where did you get the idea that the cake was made with gummy bears while we were standing at the machine? I think 2 of our community members got the joke. And then came the real test, the roller coasters. We started off with the Muffin Mayhem roller coaster, followed by the Frightful Friar Express.
Ah, yes. The Frightful Friar Express. Despite my fear of spooky skeletons, I braved through it with all of you by my side. Your support meant the world to me, chums and dear listeners.
Of course, Seymour. You know we'd always stand by your side, whether it be facing scary skeletons or enjoying burnt dishes.
Well said. Chummy boy! Well, so after our adventure at the Tofu Temple of Doom and the Gummy Bear Blaster, we headed straight for the Muffin Mayhem roller coaster, too. Lucy was a bit hesitant at first, since roller coasters weren't really her thing, she admitted. But Vincent, Loomis, and Brisbane were there to encourage her, reminding her that even Hope, the Princess, and Rachel Rocks were a bit frightened at first, but managed to overcome their fears and enjoyed every ride since then.
Yes, and as we waited in line, we shared stories about our favorite rides and attractions throughout the day. Lucy mentioned how impressed she was with the airy, whizzing, spinning top and its stunning view of Memafield from high above. She joked about how I would have tried to give you a little peck on the cheek when we were flying around up there.
Oh, Lucy, always full of surprises and humor. And as we were waiting there, do you remember who came around the corner with a big grin on his face? ArticTiger. He said he had finally finished everything and was off duty, so he jumped right into the queue with us. Of course, the other people in the line gave us some odd looks, but we just said he had been in the restroom and we had already started queuing up.
That was a wonderful moment. We and all the others were so happy to see him.
And speaking of memorable moments, the Muffin Mayhem roller coaster itself was quite an experience. The way the train spiraled around sharp corners, creating lateral forces, was just incredible.
Absolutely. I remember how we screamed with excitement and laughter as we navigated those tight turns. And don't forget about the muffins and icing flying all around the place. At one point, a giant muffin almost hit us square on the head, sending everyone into a fit of giggles.
That was definitely one of the highlights of the ride. As we soared along the tracks, we could see other visitors laughing and pointing at us, still trying to catch their breath after nearly being pelted by that muffin.
And let's not forget about the thrilling final stretch of the roller coaster where we looped back towards the station, going upside down and finishing with a bang. Talk about an adrenaline rush.
Indeed. The whole experience was just exhilarating.
Yes, that's true. The Muffin Mayhem roller coaster was quite an experience. As we sat in our seats, getting strapped in, we could already feel the excitement building up inside us. And the course of the track itself was simply thrilling. It felt as if we were dodging actual baked goods whizzing past us at breakneck speed.
Yes, indeed. And don't even get me started on those icing showers. I remember thinking, Seymour, you might end up covered in icing. Little did I know, it would become somewhat of a trademark look for me throughout the day.
Yes. And speaking of trademarks, there was one particular moment during the roller coaster ride that truly took the cake. Don't you remember when we hit that loop, the loop right after the twisty tunnel?
Oh yes, that was a real hard stopper. Just as we entered the loop, we passed right under that big neon sign that read Muffin Mayhem. It was almost as if we were being dared to keep going.
That's right. It was such a thrill, and we couldn't help but laugh and cheer as we exited the ride, still buzzing from the adrenaline rush.
Indeed, it was quite the memorable experience, and the best part was sharing it with everyone in our little community.
Agreed. Our listeners were fantastic company, and together we tackled each attraction with enthusiasm and good humor. Even though some of us were initially nervous, like Lucy and others who mentioned being similar, we all supported each other and had a great time regardless.
Defo! It was marvelous. After that wild ride, we felt invigorated and ready for more fun. So we moved on to the next attraction on our list, the Frightful Friar Express, despite my initial reservations about spooky skeletons.
But as you mentioned before, Seymour, we stood by your side through thick and thin, and even though you were afraid of the spooky skeletons, you faced them bravely with all of us supporting you. And honestly, the Frightful Friar Express wasn't as terrifying as it seemed. In fact, it turned out to be quite entertaining once we were inside.
True, Chalmy boy. Once we stepped inside that friar-shaped gatehouse for the ride, it was like entering another world. With its eerie decor and creepy sound effects, it certainly gave us a good laugh.
Well, after conquering our fears on the Frightful Friar Express, we decided to take it easy and opted for a more leisurely activity, the tidal wave teacups. Brisbane and Loomis were particularly keen on driving this water ride, while the rest of us eagerly anticipated watching them navigate us through the swirling waters.
Oh, yes. That was a blast. We all huddled around the edge of the teacup, holding onto each other tightly as the water began splashing everywhere. Julia almost fell into the water. And let's not forget about the mascot Sugar Skull, who joined us there too. He was so much fun, dancing around and adding to the overall atmosphere.
Absolutely. The Sugar Skull was quite the character, bringing a bit of magic to the whole experience. And as we spun around higher and higher above the water, we could see the entire park illuminated by the soft glow of the setting sun. Everything just looked so enchanting.
Indeed, it was a beautiful sight. As we continued spinning around, we noticed how the lights reflected off the water, creating a mesmerizing display. It was almost as if we were floating inside a giant kaleidoscope.
Exactly. It was such a magical moment, and we all shared a laugh as we tried to avoid getting drenched by the water. Despite our efforts, some of us ended up pretty wet anyway, but nobody minded. We were simply having too much fun.
Yes, indeed. And what made it even better was that ArticTiger had managed to capture some amazing photos and videos of our adventure with his action cam. He had his camera set up perfectly, capturing every moment in stunning detail.
Aha, true. ArticTiger is quite the photographer, isn't he? I can't wait to see those pictures and share them with everyone on the community fan server.
Definitely, Chummy boy. And speaking of the end of the day, we knew it would soon be time to say our farewells and head back home. But before we did, we made sure to enjoy the last few moments together at the amusement park, basking in the warm glow of the twilight.
That truly was a sight to behold. The park bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. It was such a breathtaking view that we couldn't help but marvel at it one last time before saying our goodbyes.
Yes, it was an incredibly memorable day. From the attractions and mascots to the company of our community members, everything came together to create a perfect day filled with laughter, excitement, and camaraderie.
Agreed. Our little group of listeners turned into friends throughout the day, and I know you'll love hearing about it as much as we do. Even before the sun finally set, we were left with a heartwarming scene. A group of friends enjoying the final moments under the gentle flickering of the fairy lights on Mimmerfield.
And as the sun set, we stood there at the end as a group of friends at the car park, and it was just a wonderful day. I get this strange but very cozy feeling when I think back to last week's trip. It was really great, and somehow I miss our friends we met that day. We should definitely do it again sometime.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We made the most of the day, but by the end we were all pretty tired. Still, we stood there in the car park and toasted with cold lemonade. Even Desens popped by and we welcomed him into our circle.
Oh yes, those were great moments. And at the end, with the dim light from the sunset, we all got into our cars and started the journey home. A wonderful day, thanks to everyone who was there, and apologies to those who couldn't make it due to time constraints. Hopefully, with this podcast, we've been able to share the experience with you as well.
Thanks again to everyone, and thanks for listening.
So, there you have it, our adventure at Gigglewood Resort with our fantastic community members. A day filled with laughter, thrills, and unforgettable memories.
Indeed, it was a day to remember. And now, dear listeners, we hope that sharing our experiences will inspire you to plan your own community meetups at amusement parks near you. After all, making memories and forming friendships is what it's all about.
Agreed, Charms. Life is all about creating moments worth reminiscing and cherishing. And who knows? Maybe next time we'll invite Shadow, Sonic Yugi, and Master Chief to join us in another grand adventure.
Nice idea. So, here's to more wonderful moments. See you again next week.
Bye. Have a nice day.